Hello everyone, my name is Lanso90 and welcome to my review for Rise of Skywalker. I was gonna sync this up with some Battlefront 2 footage, the original Battlefront 2, not the new one. But for some reason, it looked like it was recording fine, but ended up being like super stuttery, so I have to record this again with just a plain backdrop here. But hopefully that'll be okay. So we've done this for the last two sequel movies. They're the only ones that have come out since I had a YouTube channel going. Well, I guess Rogue One and Solo also came out, but I didn't talk about this. Anyway, we'll talk about Rise of Skywalker here. As far as a no spoiler review goes, I liked it. It wasn't bad, as I was expecting it to be. It has problems, but by and large, I feel like the problems it does have are because of the last movie. If you've seen my prior reviews, you know that I hated The Last Jedi, and I think even when I reviewed it back then, I liked it more than I ended up as bad as I hate it now, you know? It really took a while for that one to settle in about everything that was wrong with it. But still exiting the theater on that one, I was like, I don't think I like that one. And then it took a couple weeks after that to fully process everything. But that's neither here or there. All in all, I did think this one was alright. And I think it was even better than the starting one here, the Force Awakens. So now we're going to get into the spoilers. I'm just going to kind of walk through the story beats and what I do and don't like. And we'll start with the title crawl, which everyone has criticized. The dead speak. Palpatine is back, and no. So let's face the facts. Snoke was going to be a bigger threat than he was, and Rian Johnson killed him. So what the heck was J.J. Abrams going to do in this movie? He didn't have any options. They brought Palpatine back. I don't know what else he could have done. I know there's people who are upset they brought Palpatine back because it undermines Luke's legacy, and I think it does a little bit, but I also don't know what else they could have brought in to make a difference. All they could have done was make Kylo Ren the bad guy, really, and I don't think that really would have worked out because the last two movies have painted him to be completely incompetent. So I don't think anyone would have buy that. I think Palpatine was about the only thing they could do. I don't think it's a great idea, but with the situation they're in, I think that was all they had. And I think that's evidenced by the fact that it's in the opening crawl. There wasn't anything left to do. Rian Johnson really put the series in a spot where it was a complete dead end. There was like 10 people on the Millennium Falcon. Like, what do you do? It's over, the First Order won. So yeah, Palpatine's back, and it starts off, Kylo Ren's running through a forest, cutting guys down with his lightsaber. This is the scene that we thought from the trailers where he's fighting the Knights of Ren. They're not, they just look like them. I guess it's supposed to be Mustafar, is what I've heard from people who've been reading the comics and stuff. But it doesn't actually say that in the movie, so you can take it with a grain of salt as whether or not you think that's canon. Officially it's canon, but it's one of those things like the Star Wars movies never really pay that much attention to what's going on in the books, even if they do say that they're the canon books and stuff. But like there's trees there, and my opinion is if that's Mustafar, there would not be trees. I know there's like a lore reason for it, but it doesn't really make sense. Plants wouldn't grow on a planet that's has a Venus-like atmosphere, you know. So he's there, he gets the Sith Wayfinder to find where Palpatine is. He goes to Palpatine right away. This is like in under a minute of time to do this. And Palpatine reveals himself. He says that he's been all the voices inside his head, like the trailer that they released days before the movie came out said. And Palpatine, or Kylo Ren, doesn't really want to work with him, but then just decides to, I suppose. And Palpatine tells him that he wants him to bring Rey to him. No, he wants him to kill Rey to start with. And so he leaves to go do that. Then it goes to the good guy's perspective. It is Chewie and Poe piloting the Millennium Falcon. They're delivering a message from a First Order spy. Or they're picking up a message from a First Order spy. They don't know who the spy is, but can't even remember what the what they're even going to say, what the spy found out. I think it's just that Kylo is working with Palpatine now. But they take that, they deliver it back to Leia. And so we get our perspective on Rey at that point. And Rey is being overpowered as usual. She's having rocks float around her while she levitates. So, remember Luke was the son of the most powerful Force user of all time. And Luke was barely able to lift some rocks with more training than she had at this point, which we'll get into that later too. There is some reasons why that makes it a little bit better than it was before about how powerful she is, but it's obviously like insane levels of magnitude of force power that we should not be seeing at this point. And then she runs like a course that she's set up for herself to train. And there's Leia. And you can tell that her footage is recycled. Like the CGI doesn't, the fact that she's been edited in is kind of obvious. You can kind of tell. And then also like her audio, you can tell that she was like recorded in a different studio than everyone else. The lines she's saying don't really make any sense, and everyone else has to like really overact around her lines to make it seem like she's there. And I know it's really sad that we've lost Carrie Fisher, but it was extremely stupid that Rian Johnson kept the dead actor's character alive at the end of the first film, even though he had an exact point of where he could have killed her off easily without even having to do very many reshoots of anything. He had a clear-cut point where he could have done it. They had like a year of notice before that even happened. Or they had a year between her dying and the film going out, and they could have fixed it. They didn't. And instead, he killed the alive actor's character. So, figure that one out. Not very intelligent. And so, JJ had to do whatever he could do, which was try to shove Leia into this, even though it doesn't make any sense, the things she's saying. And worse, he has to be the leader of everyone, and she's being extremely generic with the things she's saying. So she gets no real direct training from Leia. This Leia's just like, oh, you can do it, Rey. There's no like actual, like how Yoda talked to Luke about how to use the Force and stuff. So they deliver the message, and then they find out about Palpatine being back. And also there's like hundreds of rebels at this point. The only thing I can say is at least this film, it seems like there's been a fairly decent period of time between this one and the last one. So yeah, I can say, okay, they've found some more recruits and stuff, and they've rebuilt their rebellion slightly. So at least that's okay, unlike the last one, which went from the New Republic was fine. They lost like their capital, but who cares? It's a galaxy-wide republic. They still have to have tons of ships around, And then there's no time skip in the title crawl. There's no time skip between what people are doing. And there's just no New Republic anymore. They're just gone. It didn't make any sense back then. This one at least makes a little bit more sense of why there's more people back. It's still suspect though to me, because in the last movie they say there's no one left. There's no one in the freaking galaxy who empathizes with the rebels anymore. That's what's implied. Okay. Again, that's the last movie's problems, not specifically this one. It's just they have to build off of that. So then they decide they need to go get one of these Sith Wayfinders as well. I think that's what the First Order message that they intercepted was that Kylo Ren met up with the Palpatine. So that's what Rey wants to do now. And then they find out about the Sith dagger that might have a clue about where to go. And we'll get into the dagger once we get there, how dumb that is. So they go to this planet. It's like a desert planet. It's not Tatooine, it's not Jakku. It's just another one. I guess there's lots of desert planets out in the Star Wars galaxy. There's indigenous natives there. They're having some kind of party that 3PO likes to tell us about. And everyone is being a major jerk to C-3PO throughout this film. And this is where it hits like a peak of like how they keep bashing on C-3PO. And while she's at this festival, one of the children gives her a necklace for the festival. And they ask her what her name is. She says Rey. And they ask, what's your surname? She says, I don't know. And then she has a Force encounter with Kylo through their link that they have. And he's trying to tempt her to the dark side again. She's saying no. And then he reaches out and pulls the necklace off of her. Through time and space. And he has the necklace and he gets it analyzed by his people to figure out where she's at. They figure it out and they head there. Meanwhile, First Order, I guess, has control of this planet, so they start getting the good guys start getting tracked. They took the Millennium Falcon. Poe, Finn, Rey, Chewbacca are all there. C-3PO, BB-8, and they're trying to get away from the First Order guys who are trying to find them there. And they hide in this little crawling vehicle thing, and they find out that Lando's there. So that's kind of another story point I don't really get. It doesn't really make sense why Lando is here. And he tells them where they can find the dagger. It's on this ship of this bounty hunter guy that was helping the Sith. So they go out into the desert to find this spaceship. Rey realizes that she's seen the spaceship before. It's the one that took off when she was a child. They are being chased by stormtroopers. They take out all the stormtroopers though, but in the process of taking out the stormtroopers, they get caught in quicksand. Quicksand sucks them up underground. And as they're going through the quicksand, Finn says he wants to tell Rey something, but before he can, they get swallowed up. And then he decides not to tell her once they're underground. Everyone made it through okay. They're wandering this cave and they find a dead body, and the dead body has the dagger. And then while they're down there, there's a giant snake thing. Giant thing tries to eat them, or it looks like it's going to attack them, and then Rey walks forward trying to calm it down, finds out it has a wound on it, and she force heals the wound. Okay, so this is one of the points where I think people are complaining for the wrong reason. People are hating the fact that she force healed. They're saying, oh, that's not a force power. In the movies, yes. I don't know about the books. I haven't read every single book. I've read some. But in every single video game, you can force heal. It's a very extremely common force power in the video games. So I have no problem with her being able to force heal. I guess the only problem in the continuity of the movie universe that would be with it is it wouldn't make sense of why Anakin couldn't have healed Smee, basically. But I think that does make sense, but also it is in all the games, so I'm not really bothered by that one very much. And then when she heals the snake, it moves and they find the way out of the underground, and they make their way to the ship. As they're getting ready to get on the ship, Kylo Ren is approaching, so Rey steps outside to face Kylo Ren. While she's doing that, Chewie is stepping outside, I think to tell Rey that they're ready to take off. And when Chewie does that, he gets captured by the Knights of Ren. Or with Kylo at this point. They haven't said anything, though. And it's not really explained who the Knights of Ren are at all. But they're there. They capture Chewie. And they haul him off into a transport ship. And Rey and Kylo fight. It's the scene from the first teaser, I think, where Rey does the backflip over the TIE fighter. She cuts off one of the wings of it, goes flying off and explodes in an explosion that no one should be able to survive. As we know from the last movie, gigantic explosions that no one should be able to survive don't do anything to Jedi anymore. Or even people that we don't even know are Jedi at all. So he gets out of it. The transport starts taking off. Finn runs outside to tell Rey Chewie's on that transport. And she force pulls it to hold it in place from coming out of the sky, being overpowered as she is. Although, again, this is another one where I'm like, I don't think it's too bad that she's force pulling this transport. It's not gigantic. And we've seen Darth Vader and some other characters in games force pull ships before, so not too crazy. But still, at the same time, I understand where people are coming from, because Yoda could barely pull the X-Wing out of the swamp on Dagobah. So I get where they're coming from. But I don't think it's as bad as some people make it out to be. So she's holding the ship back, and then Kylo Ren steps out, and he starts force pulling it away from her, so they're like in a tug of war of the Force on this transport. Rey starts getting extremely frustrated, and lightning shoots out of her hands and blows up the transport. She's mortified that she might have killed Chewie. Finn finally is able to pull her on board, though, and they take off. And Rey is distressed that she might have killed Chewie. But they have Chewie has the dagger. That was the other thing. Chewie picked up the dagger. For some reason, plot convenience, Chewie has this dagger. But C-3PO had read this dagger before they had lost it. The problem is, it's in Sith, and he can't translate Sith. It's in his programming that he can't tell anyone what something in Sith says. And this is another kind of a plot hole for me, is they make it out like C-3PO's read the Sith language, he understands it, he knows what it says. I don't know why he can't just type into the nav computer where they need to go. Because that's not brought up. They're just like, okay, we need to find someone who can hack C-3PO and get this information out of him. So Poe has a lead on someone who could get the information out of him on some other planet. So that's where they head next. They go to this other planet. It's kind of like I don't know how to describe it. It's not a weird planet or like a specialized planet. It's just kind of a normal planet with a city on it. And they go to the city. It's extremely First Order patrolled, and they're doing their best to try to hide. And then this bounty hunter lady shows up. She's actually on our screen here. Actually, I don't know if you can see my mouse cursor right now. I don't think so. But anyway, she's the lady with the red, I guess you'd call it a red shirt and the metal helmet. Looks like a bounty hunter of some kind. She gets a hold of him. She's furious at Poe. She's acting like she's going to kill him. He's trying to talk her out of it. They clearly know each other. Rey ignites her lightsaber, and that seems to be enough to scare this lady into not attacking. Poe tells her that they need to go find this guy who can get the information out of C-3PO. And she takes him there. She's not very willing to do it, but she does. And it's this little tiny alien dude who's actually kind of funny. I can't remember what his name is, like something Frink. And he can apparently get this information out of C-3PO, but he's going to have to hack him. He's going to have to reset him to factory default settings, which will get rid of C-3PO's memory. And everyone's still kind of a jerk to C-3PO here. They don't really give him an option to opt out of it. C-3PO does say that, well, the fate of the galaxy relies on this, so I'll do it, but they're still being a jerk to C-3PO. And, can't remember, it seems like they're in a time squeeze. They're pressed for time. I think it's just like the patrols outside are getting more and more intense. I think somehow Kylo Ren knew where they were going. I don't remember how he knows where they're going, though. But he also doesn't know where to find them, at least. But he goes to the same planet they do. His Star Destroyer appears in orbit of the planet. Or within the atmosphere, actually. And Rey realizes that Chewie is on the Star Destroyer. There was a second transport ship that they had actually put Chewie in. And the one that she blew up was not the one that Chewie was in. So her, Rey, and Finn get on board their ship, and they have a special talisman from this bounty hunter lady that she took off of a First Order captain that can get them to the ship without being detected, or at least not getting asked any questions. So they're able to make it to the docking bay before anyone notices they're there. And they run in guns a-blazing to kill these stormtroopers. And they start making their way to Chewie based on where Rey feels like he is. Meanwhile, Kylo Ren is on the surface trying to find Rey. And they eventually find where Chewie should be. And Rey says she has something else she has to take care of and runs off in another direction. Or she has to go get the dagger. So she runs off to go get the dagger while the others save Chewie. They save Chewie. Finn, Poe, and Chewie have a huge gunfight trying to get back to their ship. Rey finds the dagger in Kylo's room where he has the Darth Vader helmet and everything. And then while she's there, she has another Force vision with Kylo, their shared vision thing. Kylo's still trying to tempt her to the dark side. He's trying to figure out where she's at. And they actually start having a duel through this link. So they're in two different locations. He's on the surface, she's on the ship. And they're having a lightsaber duel between them two. And eventually at one point, one of them swings the lightsaber and breaks the pedestal where, I think it's the one where Darth Vader's helmet's on it. And it falls to the ground. And when it falls to the ground, Kylo Ren can see it. So he's like, oh, that's where you're at. And then he severs the connection, and he's coming for her. Poe, Rey, and Chewie get caught. I don't remember how they get... Okay, so they get caught. They get hauled to a back room to be executed. And General Hux is there. He's like, I want to do this myself. He lines up the gun. The other two, the characters are bickering between each other. The gun goes off, and the stormtroopers fall down. And Hux says, I was the informant the whole time. He is the spy. So he lets them go. Poe, Finn, and Chewbacca get on the ship and leave. I don't know why they left Rey behind. Trying to remember, this is all this is all in the space of the very first, I don't know, quarter of the film. This movie is extremely fast paced. It's hard to remember the order of which everything happened, especially after it's been a few days. I don't want to give them money to watch it again, though, you know. So there's parts I forget. I can't remember why they leave without Rey, but they do. And eventually Rey makes it to the hangar where the ship was, just as Kylo lands, and they square off a bit. He's trying to tempt her to the dark side again. And I don't think they quite get into a duel at this point. I think they're about to. But Poe and Finn show up with the ship again. They turn on the engines to maximum and face it backwards, so that blows away all the stormtroopers that are on the hangar deck. Rey and Kylo are able to resist the push of the engines, but Rey's closer to the edge of the drop bay, so she jumps over onto the ship and they make it back down to the surface. Maybe they went to pick up C-3PO. That might have been why they left early. I can't remember if they go back to get C-3PO or if they already... I think they already brought him with them, actually. C-3PO came too. He just stayed on the ship once they got on board. But C-3PO was already mind-wiped at this point. He did translate what the dagger said about how to get to Palpatine. They'd have to find the Sith Wayfinder using the dagger or they have to find the Sith Wayfinder, which the dagger will lead them to that. And C-3PO doesn't know who anyone is anymore. And he has red eyes. For a little bit. For some reason, he just has red eyes while he's translating the Sith stuff. And then after that, he has his normal eyes back, but he's still mind-wiped. So after that, they head back to... I don't think they head back to Leia and everyone yet. No, I think they do. I think they head back to Leia and everyone. And explain the situation. They leave C-3PO behind. And... Trying to remember here. Let me pause it while I think. Okay, so they get onto the Millennium Falcon at this point, and they head to Endor. It doesn't say they're heading to Endor, I don't think. But that's where they're at because the wreckage of the second Death Star is in the water. We've seen this before. They had a crash landing. I can't remember what was wrong exactly, why they had to do a crash landing. But they do, so they can't use the Millennium Falcon to fly to the Death Star parts. They meet up with these people who are on Endor that aren't the Ewoks. And they said that they can take them to the Death Star wreckage tomorrow morning, but right now the sea is too rough to do it. And we have the scene that's extremely annoying. Rey holds up the Sith dagger, pulls out like a slide rule that's on it, and holds it up to the wreckage, scans around. Then she says she knows where the Wayfinder is in the wreckage. Obviously, this doesn't make any sense, because how would she know exactly where she needs to stand to look exactly on this gigantic Death Star wreckage to find exactly where the Wayfinder is? It doesn't make any sense. But she's determined to get there as soon as she can. Oh, you know what? I think the information that was in the spy notes that Hux sent was that every single Star Destroyer in Palpatine's fleet has a planet-destroying weapon. I forgot to mention this. Palpatine has a ginormous fleet, biggest one we've ever seen of just Star Destroyers, and they all have this Death Star weapon attached to them. We see it at the beginning when Kyle was there earlier. How he amassed this fleet without anyone knowing is impossible. How he gets enough people to man this without anyone knowing is impossible. And how they get the Death Star weapon out of these things is impossible. Because it's not like it's a new... I don't know. It's not the Eclipse Star Destroyers from like the Empire of War games. It's like the Dreadnought from the last movie where there's just like a gigantic undermounted cannon. It's like that, except like apparently these can blow up planets. So that's why she's in a rush. She really wants to get this stopped before these ships go out, because Palpatine is going to give the final order, which is to put one of these ships above every planet, so that every planet has to bow to his will or be destroyed. So she runs off to go do this when everyone else said that the water is too rough to do it, and she just takes this a tiny little fishing boat, and she makes it to the Death Star, and she starts climbing through the gigantic wreckage of it. And then a few hours after this happens, Finn and this new lady that he found on the planet, who is also an ex-stormtrooper, take another one of the fishing ships to go after, while Poe and Chewie and BB-8 are repairing the Millennium Falcon. I should also mention that when they found this new Sith ship that they took around earlier, they found a robot on it named Dio. It's that small, tiny little robot that just has the one wheel and the cone head. So he's with them too for some reason. But they leave them behind. Rey finally gets to the throne room of the Death Star. She finds a side room where this Wayfinder is going to be. And this is where she has the vision of herself as a Sith. You know what? Back when they're on the last planet, sorry, like I said, it's an extremely fast-paced movie. Back when they're at the last planet, when Kylo Ren's trying to turn her to the dark side on the hangar deck, he tells her that he reveals her heritage. Her parents were nobodies, as Rian Johnson put it, because they chose to be. That's what Kylo Ren says. Because her father is Lord Palpatine's son, and he didn't want to be associated with him anymore. He wanted Rey to be safe, so he handed her off to some guy on Jakku. So she's not actually nobody. She's the granddaughter of Palpatine. So she's pretty disturbed about that. And when she walks into this room, this is where she sees the Sith version of herself, the double-bladed lightsaber. They have a very light lightsaber duel, which is dumb because the Sith version of her does use it in the format where the two lightsabers are connected on the same side, you know, not like Darth Maul's. She does use it that way, which doesn't make sense as a fighting technique. If you watch Shadowverse, he has a video on why that would be a very stupid way to design a weapon. It's bad. But she gets the Sith Wayfinder, and when she steps out of this room, Kylo Ren has arrived. And he gets the Sith Wayfinder away from her. He overpowers her somehow. And he crushes it in front of her. Which makes her angry, and they start having a lightsaber fight. So they have this lightsaber fight. It's not very well choreographed. They're just baseball bats swinging at each other. It's not interesting like the Revenge of the Sith lightsaber fight or anything like that. It's still... Funny enough, it's the best lightsaber fight we've had in the sequels. But that's because all the lightsaber fights in the sequels have been absolutely awful. Kylo Ren actually wins this engagement fairly easily. And right when he's about to strike her down, we see the perspective of Leia on the planet that they're on. They never reveal where it's at. and she suddenly gets sick and is walked off to a bed. And we see her on this bed now, and she's dying. So I think she just says Ben and dies because they don't have any audio of Leia. And while he's seeing this in his head through the Force, Rey stabs him through the gut. And then at that point, Rey also realizes that Leia just died. She turns off her lightsaber. Kylo Ren collapses. Rey's also extremely worn out and collapses. I guess she feels really bad for him, and she walks up to him, force heals his wound, and then Kylo doesn't do anything. He's just sitting there kind of dazed. She runs off and takes his X-Wing and flies away. While Finn and this lady have mostly caught up, but they can't quite get to him. And he's calling out for her, but she takes off. And okay, so that happens. Kylo Ren's sitting there, and then he has a vision of Han Solo. He's not a Force ghost, but he's not actually there. It's his imagination, I suppose. And it just kind of mirrors the conversation in the first sequel movie, where he's trying to take Kylo Ren back to the light side. This time, Kylo says, I know what I need to do, but I'm not strong enough, like he did last time. And then, I can't remember what Han says, but after Han says it, Kylo takes his lightsaber and throws it into the ocean, implying that he's gone back to the light side. From that one small act, really. And losing his mother, I suppose. And then we're completely left with that as far as those characters go. It never explains what Kylo does next. It never explains what Finn and Poe really do next until we see them later. We just completely leave Endor behind. Rey arrives on Luke Skywalker's planet, the island planet where he was training, or where he went to die, according to Rian Johnson in the last movie. She's there, she's throwing firewood onto the TIE fighter and burning it. As she's throwing the firewood on, she grabs Anakin's lightsaber, is about to throw it into the fire. Actually, she tries, and then a hand reaches out and catches the lightsaber and says a Jedi's weapon should be treated with more respect than this. It's Luke Skywalker's Force Ghost. So that's actually an awesome point, because it totally trashes what Rian Johnson tried to do in the last movie, which was I can't use the words I want to say because Google DeepMind, YouTube will take me down for saying it. Just what Rian Johnson did to Luke in the last movie was awful. And this was kind of just a big F you to Rian Johnson from J.J. Abrams, saying that Luke would never handle a weapon that way, pretty much. And Rey's talking about how she's scared, how she found out she's a Palpatine. And Luke says, I know who you were. He basically gives her a pep talk and convinces her that she needs to go back and help save everyone. They need her. She's like, there's no way I can help, though. There's no way off this planet. I just destroyed this X-Wing. Or not X-Wing, the TIE fighter. And I also don't know where Exegol is, which is the planet where Palpatine's at. And he says, you have everything you need right here. And when the fire's gone out from the TIE fighter, she walks in, she finds Kylo Ren's Sith Wayfinder. So she takes that, and then Luke shows her, he wants to show her something. He leads her to a false wall where they take out a brick of it, and there's a lightsaber there. It's Leia's old lightsaber. We have a flashback scene where Luke and Leia are having a lightsaber duel. We can't see it's them at first. They're wearing those blast helmets that you can't see out of that they train with sometimes. That you can kind of tell because Luke's lightsaber is green, hers is blue, and they're having a little practice duel. And I think Luke gets knocked down somehow and pulls his visor up, and she pulls his visor up. He's just telling her about how he trained Leia and why Leia gave up her training. She sensed Kylo Ren turning to the dark side. I think that was it. Maybe there's something else going on. I think she says because Kylo Ren was turning, or Ben was turning to the dark side. But I don't know why that makes sense because he hadn't turned until Luke was about to kill him. So I don't know why, but she gave up her training because of something like that. So Rey has 2 lightsabers now. She has Luke's and Leia's, or she has Anakin's and Leia's technically. Don't know what happened to Luke's lightsaber actually, because I think it fell to the ground, right? In the Last Jedi. It should still be around. That's actually a loose end, isn't it? Because that should still be there. No, she doesn't have it. And then Luke pulls the X-Wing out of the water. The X-Wing that we saw in the last movie, his X-Wing, Red 5. He force pulls it out of the water. It's a Force Ghost. Which again, all these scenes, showing Leia's training, it's kind of an FU to Rian Johnson for not showing us why Leia had Force powers. Luke pulling the X-Wing out of the water. He put that X-Wing in the last film like it was going to matter, and then he didn't use it, which is extremely annoying. It was extremely dumb writing. So he pulls it out of the water. The problem with all this scene, though, is it is giving a lot more power to Force Ghosts, which is something you have to be careful with, I think. Like, I respect wanting to give Luke power again to actually get some stuff done and do something with him. That's good. The problem is now we have this precedent that these Force Ghosts, Yoda can come down, call Force Lightning, and destroy things. Luke can catch things and Force pull things. We set this precedent now that these Force Ghosts are just as capable as alive people, and it really makes everything not make sense of why haven't Force Ghosts helped before at all. Is it just something that can be done on this planet? It's not really explained why it would be that planet. It's not like Dagobah that has like tons and tons of life force, so it should have tons of midichlorians and force energy, you know? So that doesn't quite make sense to me, but maybe that's the reason why. Maybe they can only manifest on this planet. So she flies back to the rebel planet. Poe, Finn, and everyone else has also landed there, but they've landed there a little bit earlier. And they've found out that Leia's dead. Leia made Poe general. And one scene that really did get me was Chewbacca's reaction to finding out Leia died. Oh, that was intense. That actually got me. So that's one positive thing in this movie, guys. They got Chewie's reaction to Leia being dead. Spot on, I think. And then Rey finally gets there, and everyone has their hope restored. And she flies off to plot the course to this planet that Palpatine's on. I can't remember the name of it. I said earlier, Exegol. Because it's through this like really complicated and dangerous nebula that only one single path can take you through safely. So she's going in advance to chart it out and to confront Palpatine. And then everyone else will be able to follow suit. Lando has arrived at this point too, and Lando is given the task to go to the core systems and try to gather support to help them out in this fight. But actually, there is tiny fleet that the Rebellion has already. Rebellion, Resistance. I'm using them interchangeably at this point. So they're gonna follow Rey later to confront the Sith fleet. And their plan is, for some dumb reason, it doesn't really make sense why every ship wouldn't just be equipped with the way out. There's a ground station where all the commands to get in and out are at. And it sends it to the rest of the ship. So if they can take that out, then the rest of the Sith fleet will be stuck. I'm starting to get tired. Sorry. We're almost through. We're almost done. Like I said, this movie is extremely dense and extremely fast. It's hard to pay attention. Basically because J.J. Abrams had to make 2 movies in one to make up for everything that got thrown out in The Last Jedi, basically. So Rey arrives at Exegol and approaches Palpatine the same way that Kylo did. I can't remember what exactly was the trigger that made Palpatine decide he didn't want Rey dead anymore. There was something that happened that made him decide he wanted her to come instead. Or maybe it was always his plan. I can't really remember why he changed. But he wanted her to show up at that point, and he's trying to goad her into killing him the same way he did in the last movie with Luke. Whereas, like, strike me down and fulfill your destiny, you'll become Empress Palpatine. My essence will transfer into yours. So on and so forth. So while that's happening, the rest of the Rebel fleet arrives to confront the Sith fleet, and the Sith fleet is absolutely ginormous, so they have almost zero chance. But they're pressing on anyway. They target the ground station first, but just as they're blowing it up, they transfer the control of it to one of the Super Star Destroyers, which apparently is the only one that can also command things around, because they don't try to transfer it to anyone else after that. So they take out the ground station easily enough, but when they have to go take on the Star Destroyer, they're in trouble. They start losing a lot of ships. Rey's refusing to strike down Palpatine. And as this is happening now, Kylo Ren has arrived, but he's not Kylo Ren anymore. He's Ben Solo. But he hasn't said anything. They haven't shown him at all until this point. I'm not forgetting something here. Literally, he has not shown up since Endor. They haven't shown him at all. And they haven't even, like, force connected with him or anything. Nothing. He's just gone. And now he's back. So he's following Rey. Once he's inside, though, he's confronted with the Knights of Ren. Somehow they know that he's turned to the light side, and they start beating the crap out of him. Then Rey can feel that he's getting the crap beat out of him and that he's turned to the light side, I guess. It's not said, it's all done just visually. And Rey ignites the lightsaber like she's gonna kill Palpatine with it. She's raising it above her head like she's gonna strike him. She reaches behind her back where you can't see it anymore, and then she pulls her hand back out and the lightsaber is gone. Instead, Ben Solo has it. And then he starts fighting the Knights of Ren. And can't remember what happens to Rey at this point, because I don't think Palpatine attacks her. I think maybe Palpatine's guards start to attack her at this point. And Palpatine, it didn't seem like he ordered it, but he also didn't seem to care that they were attacking her, so I'm not sure what was going on there. But she has the other lightsaber. I think she gave Ben Anakin's lightsaber, and she uses Leia's. So now they have to fight the Star Destroyer and I hate it. They land these transports on the Star Destroyer's surface, and a bunch of horses that we saw at some other point in the movie. I don't really know how they got there. Finn said that they said they needed some kind of way to do a ground assault, and Finn was like, leave that to me. Apparently that was these horses. Literal horses. They get on these horses and charge along the surface of this Star Destroyer. That one hurts. That's a real downside of this movie. Like, if you remove that scene, I'd probably increase the score by a couple points, you know? This is so bad. And by the way, you're also probably thinking at this point, wait a minute, where's Rose? You haven't mentioned Rose. Have you just forgotten about Rose? No, she's not in the movie. She has like less than a minute of screen time. I guess JJ is not interested in her character, which I can understand. It does. I don't know. I almost wonder if she asked to have less screen time, really, because after the bowling she got in the last one, which I don't approve of, by the way. As much as I hated The Last Jedi, being douchebags to the actors is not acceptable. But something must have happened because she has almost no screen time. I don't know if that's her decision, or if it's JJ's decision, or what. But she has no role in the film. She's not in a relationship with Finn anymore, it seems, because Finn's trying to develop a relation with this new stormtrooper lady, ex-stormtrooper lady. Anyway, they're running to go take out this tower on the Star Destroyer. They're getting mowed down. The Space Forces are getting mowed down too. Poe's losing all hope. He's like, this is the end. We're losing everyone. And Lando shows up with the ginormous fleet, the biggest fleet we've ever seen outside of this gigantic fleet of Star Destroyers we've seen. Absolutely massive. It makes the Rebellion fleet at the Battle of Endor look pathetic. Where all these ships came from? I don't know. He says they told him to go to the core world to gather support. But the end of the last movie said there's no one answering. There's no one left. And that was also at the start of the first movie too. There's no one left. It's literally these 3 ships that's under Leia's command. So it doesn't make any sense to me why these ships are here. They're supposed to be just like civilians and stuff. They're not really supposed to be like a main fleet, but it's still, it doesn't make sense. Just doesn't make sense. I don't know. But whatever, it does look cool. It's interesting seeing all the ships. I think there's a lot of the old classic ships in there. There's also some guest appearances. We see... Sorry, I'm starting to lose my voice. We see an old Wedge Antilles flying a ship. We see this, we see the lady that Poe's in a relationship with, the bounty hunter lady. She's there as well. And so they rally the forces and they start taking out the cannons on these Star Destroyers, just in case they can't destroy the turret or the tower in time. At least they can stop some of these ships from blowing up planets. So they're making a major push. And while this is happening, Kylo Ren's, or Ben Solo's taking out the Knights of Ren, and he's made it to Rey. And then Palpatine notices there's special bond. He's like, "Yeah, you alright. First die." I can't do this voice or I'm gonna die. I want to do the Palpatine voice, but I can't. I've already lost my voice. But he explains that they're a Force diode. It's something that only happens in the Force every few centuries. That's why their Force powers are so powerful between them. And then he realizes, I don't need Rey. I don't need Ben. and just going to steal your power, and he force drains them, which is actually cool. This is another thing where people are like, I don't like this, and that's one of those things where I'm like, this is not a problem with the movie. There's plenty of other problems we can work about. Force drain, though, again, like force healing, it's in all the video games. It's an extremely common thing. It's basically just the Sith version of force heal. It's force drain. Anyway, he sucks this Dio power out of him, which completely regenerates him back to his prime. Or I wouldn't say prime. He still looks like he did in Return of the Jedi, but he was like extremely battered up and broken and stuff in this movie, and that all heals from doing this drain. So then he reaches into the sky and fires this giant pillar of force lightning that starts taking out all the rebel ships. And when other people have been describing this, they've been telling me that he's blowing up all the rebel ships with this force lightning. Oh, sorry, I bumped the microphone. They're always saying that it's blowing up all the rebel ships, which I would have said is definitely overpowered, but he's actually not. It's more like an EMP effect. His lightning is like destroying all their electronics, frying them. So it's causing all the rebel ships to start falling from the sky. But it is all the rebel ships, every single one is getting electrified this way, which is giving the Star Destroyers the advantage on pushing them back. It's starting to look like all hope is lost. Also, I think right before he does that, he also force pushes Kylo Ren or Ben Solo off this cliff face that's in this area. He says, "Like I feel, you shall too." He force pushes him over the cliff. Rey's there, collapsed. It seems like this is one of the parts that I think is good, because it kind of deals with her being overpowered from before. It seems like after Palpatine absorbed this force dyad, that Rey had almost zero energy left. Like, most of her power was coming from this dyad effect, and not from herself, really. I could be misreading it, but that's how I kind of interpret it, and that kind of makes Rey a little bit more acceptable as a character. That it wasn't just she was just extremely powerful on her own. It was this rare force dyad thing that happened that made her so strong, and without it, she's not as powerful as she was. But she's losing all hope as she's seeing the fleet being destroyed above her. And then the words of all the Jedi start echoing in her head. We don't see any Force ghosts, but we assume they're in her head or something. They're telling her that all their power is in her now. They get up Rey, they're trying to inspire her. She starts standing up, approaching Palpatine. She ignites her lightsaber, or she hasn't done that yet, I don't think. But Palpatine stops firing this force lightning into the sky to turn his attention to her. And I don't remember if she tells him that she feels all the Jedi are in her now. She might have, I can't remember. But he says, "All the Sith live in me. Now you will all die." And he starts shooting his force lightning at her. I think she's hit for a moment, but then she ignites her lightsaber and starts blocking it like, I don't think Yoda uses lightsaber. Was it Obi-Wan who blocked force lightning with his lightsaber in the prequels? Someone did. Because Yoda uses his hand, but someone else uses the lightsaber. It was Mace Windu. Mace Windu was blocking the force lightning with his lightsaber, so that's what she's doing now with one. And she seems like she's getting pushed back still, even with all the Jedi supporting her. And eventually, she's able to force pull Anakin Skywalker's lightsaber to her as well. And she crosses them into an X shape. She starts pushing herself towards Palpatine. And as she's doing this, The lightning is bouncing off of her lightsabers back at him, starting to disintegrate him. Meanwhile, in space, with the force lightning off of them now, their electronics are coming back online. Finn is able to get the gun turret on the Star Destroyer to turn and destroy the tower for them. I think BB-8 hacks the ship or something to do that. And meanwhile, Palpatine gets completely disintegrated by his own lightning. Rey collapses to the floor. And the Rebels win, I guess, because it doesn't really show what happens to the Sith fleet. They said they'll be stranded here, though, because they need the guidance to get out. After this all happened, Rey, it looks like she's dead. I think she's completely dead. But Ben is able to climb out of the pit that he's in, and he struggles his way towards her. It seems like his leg is maybe broke. He finally gets to her and holds her, and then he force heals her. And then they're both alive for a moment. They kiss. He hasn't said anything since he's turned to the light side, by the way. Still hasn't. They kiss, and then he dies. Yeah. That's... I don't think JJ could have gotten away with killing off Rey. I don't think he could have. I do think it might have been better if Ben was able to survive, but I don't think it would have been in the cards. I don't think anyone would have accepted it. But he dies. I think there's just a cold cut there. It doesn't explain how the Rebellion fleet gets away, or what happens to the Sith fleet, or anything. Rey arrives at Tatooine. She's looking around through Aunt Maru's house. She uses the Force to dig a hole in the sand, and she wraps up Leia and Luke's lightsabers in a blanket and buries them under the sand near the house. An old lady is walking by, and she's like, "Oh, it's good to see someone here again. What's your name?" She says, "Rey." She says, "Well, what's your surname?" And she says, "Skywalker." And that's the end. No, I didn't leave anything out. Well, I'm sure I probably left things out because I'm getting tired. I can't remember. It's been a few days. But that was the basic gist of it. It's already an hour long. I could do it word by word verbatim, but then it would be 2.5 hours long because this is a long movie as well. Because it had to be 2 movies in one. So, you can take what I just said for yourself to decide how you felt about it. Overall, I did like it. Did I love it? No. Did I like it more than Last Jedi? Oh god, yeah. Last Jedi is god-awful. Perhaps the worst movie ever made. Which is saying something. I think most of the problems that this movie has is because of the last movie. I think there's a lot of people who are complaining about the wrong things about this movie, though. And I think they're complaining because the last movie was so bad. So that's just kind of what it comes down to, right? I like this one a lot more than Last Jedi. I think I like it a bit more than The Force Awakens. But I don't think it's as good as it could have been because of The Last Jedi. And then of course it has its own issues. There's plenty of things that JJ probably could have done better. I just feel there's a lot of stuff that he didn't have any other options of what he could have done. At least without, making so many compromises that half the movie-going audience wouldn't see it. Like the last film. So I think that about covers it. We'll do a breakdown of what I think about every Star Wars movie in a list probably after this. But for now, I hope you all enjoyed the video. I know it's very long, very rambly. I think I got most of my points off though. And also lost my voice. So that about does it. If you enjoyed it, remember to hit the like button, keep the conversation going in the comments, and subscribe if you want to see more. Until next time, I hope you have a good day.